Hey, what's up, kinfolk, family, and friends? It's your boy Jeffrey Leon on It's My Business. Hey, I want to you, thank you for your love, your support, your comments, your likes, your shares. Hey, I am so grateful for you guys supporting It's My Business. And believe me, every episode that I give you is to inspire you to start your own business. You know, I've traveled halfway around the world and I've had some great tasting food. And the best local food that I've been to in Phoenix, Arizona, at Switch Restaurant. Hey, this guy cooks a meal, man. Jason, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you became a chef as well as started your own restaurant business?
As far as my backstory goes, I've been in the cooking business, a professional cook, for 29 years. And I'd say it probably took me 10 years of working professionally before I actually earned the title of chef and was put in charge of a restaurant. And I love it. I wouldn't do anything else. I can't do office work. It bores me. I love being in the kitchen, and it really has afforded me a chance to travel and see the country and live where I want to live, whether it was on the beach or in the mountains or come down to Phoenix for the weather all year. I got lucky years ago. I was in college and I needed a job, and I took a job in a chain restaurant. And a bartender there thought I had some talent. And he introduced me to two gentlemen who had studied in Paris, and I went to work for them. And that was the last chain restaurant job I had. I've only worked in independence. And I like it that way. It's easier to get things done. It's easier to change things. It's easier to improve. And so I have not looked back since.
So how did you end up at Switch Restaurant?
I started here at Switch. I was hired on as the sous chef about 8 years ago. And about 6 months into it, there was a shakeup in labor, and the chef that was here went to another restaurant that was owned by the same people that owned Switch at the time. And I was promoted to chef and basically started running it as if it were my own place. I made all of the decisions as far as the specials and the staffing and labor and things like that. Ultimately, the buck stops here. I'm responsible for everything.
When did you decide you wanted to start your own restaurant business?
At some point, every chef wants his own place. And so in June of last year, I convinced my wife and I that we needed to quit our jobs and travel around the country and eat and drink and do research and decide where we were going to put this business of ours. But I had told the previous owners of this restaurant if they should ever decide that they wanted to get out, that I wanted first dibs. Because I had already acted like it was my place anyway. I was here 75 hours a week. Most of the customers thought I was the owner anyway. And so I feel like I had already put in the sweat equity that an owner has to put in. And so they approached me in January, and we thought about it for a number of months. I did look at a couple of complete build-outs of other restaurants. But for us, this made the most sense because the restaurant had a reputation that I had already had a large part in building. No chef is an island, and it takes a team to do this. But I feel like I had a large part in building the reputation of the restaurant. The previous owners were ready to just close. Their lease was done, it was over, and they were ready to just walk away if they couldn't sell the place. And we felt like this is an important place. It's an important place to the community. It's an important place to the people that it serves. It's an important place for the people who work here. Some of them have worked here for 10 years. They've worked here longer than I have. They've raised families working here. They've bought houses working here. And for us to continue on giving them that opportunity was important. I think that was really one of the major drives for us to do this. It certainly hasn't been easy. We closed for a matter of 2 hours, signed the paperwork, got the keys, came back, had a rah-rah meeting with the staff, and went right back to work.
Now, I know it was a great day to finally say that you started your own restaurant business, but what were the unexpected surprises that came along with that?
So it's taken us a little bit longer to get everything done that we wanted to do, the changes, because we are having to do it while we're open. It's not like, we closed for 3 months and did all the changes at once. We're sort of doing it organically. We've completely redone the outdoor patio, and some of the stuff that you don't think about happening or being expensive or being a cost associated with it. Everything comes up. Every person at City Hall has their hand out. Permits, licensing. I can, before you do this, and if it's a restaurant you want, make sure you research every license that you're supposed to have, because your temporary liquor license is not your permanent liquor license, it is not your annual liquor license, and it's not your state liquor license. They all cost money. And I don't want to discourage anybody, but make sure you do your research first. It's been a complete learning experience for us. I did not know how much it was going to cost to make this old brick wall look like an old brick wall, because it was heavily painted and we wanted to sandblast it and couldn't, because it would have gone right through the wall. So instead of just having an old brick wall, we have a painted faux brick wall. And it's all been, $1,000 here, a couple thousand there, and this permit and this license, and oh well, the restaurant's been open for 10 years, but because you're new owners, the health department comes in and inspects like it's a new building. So they're requiring things that were not required of the previous owners, which turned out to be a $3,000 sink.
I tell people all the time, it's great having my own business. What do you love about having your own business?
Still, all in all, I really love what I do, and I love having my own place. I love being able to set all of the guidelines and all of the teaching strategies, and to be able to set and maintain a company culture that we believe in is really important, and I think that's been one of the most gratifying things so far. I traded one set of stresses for another. Can I get the special and the soup and the stock ready before 5? To, can I make the rent and the payroll and pay for health insurance this month? I would not change it, honestly. I think that being your own boss and looking after your own future is really the American dream.
Now that you've been running your own business for close to a year now, do you feel like having your own business has made you a success?
You can apply the word success to anything. Are you a billionaire? Are you successful? Or do you make enough in your own business to be able to take care of yourself and your community? For me, that's success. I certainly wouldn't turn down $1 billion if somebody wants to buy a restaurant. But, right now we feel like, we're 10 months in. We're coming up on a year here in a couple of months, and we're going to have a big party, a big sort of grand opening. But we feel like so far we've made a success of it.
Speaking of money, what do you suggest as far as resources people can look forward to as far as trying to finance their own?
Well, there's a number of different resources that you can go through. You can go through the Small Business Association. I understand that is a difficult type of thing, because you have to produce receipts first, so you have to pay up before the SBA will refund your money. There's always family. I don't know how much I can recommend borrowing a bunch of money from Aunt Susie and then opening up a business. It could make for awkward holidays. If you can find an investor that believes in you and has a realistic expectations, and I say realistic with extreme emphasis, realistic expectations of a return on investment. If you're looking at a restaurant, You're not going to get your return on investment. 2.5 to 5 years is what it's going to be. Nowadays, there's GoFundMe's. You can always start small. My suggestion is to start small and grow organically instead of, if your end goal is a huge 175 seat restaurant or a chain of electronic stores or a chain of clothing stores, start small, grow, get your bills paid, don't get too heavily into debt, and then grow again and again as you can afford it. That's what we did here. This originally was a bagel shop, and we operated with a bagel oven for 3.5 years before we could afford to have it removed and replaced with proper kitchen equipment. And we didn't put out a bad product, but you just can't outlay too much to get started with. There's always your local bank. My suggestion, if you're going to take investors, would be not to take too much money from any one person. In that way, that one investor doesn't have control over everything that you do. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, if you have one investor that puts in $2.5 million into your restaurant, and suddenly you are not getting along, and your agreements are not matching each other, they can pull the money, and then you're stuck. You're out, which has happened a couple of times. How are you? You're fine.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No, no worries. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. It actually happened nationally to a restaurant in Chicago recently, where a very famous restaurant, where the main investor was the owner, was not seeing things the way the chef thought about it, and chef walked and the restaurant closed 2 days later. And it was an expensive endeavor. It was almost a $3 million investment. Now we are in a position where we've used our own savings for this, so it's scary at the end of every month, but it's also worth it.
Thank you, Jason, for taking the time to come on to It's My Business. I greatly appreciate you taking the time once again. Hey, much success to your business, and congratulations for the 1 year anniversary that's coming up. And if you could please put on my menu some shrimp and grits. I'm coming to get it. Thank you, brother. I'll see you soon.
Definitely want to thank Jeffrey Leon
What's up, kid folk family
and his
and friends?
company
It's your boy
for
Jeffrey Leon.
coming down, interviewing me, giving me this opportunity to bring my words to the world.
Send his stuff out. Make it go viral. Make it go viral. Share it with a friend. Tell a friend to share it with another friend. Because what he's putting out is actually positive. From the first video that I've seen, the gentleman doing the haircut, when people were starving in the street or didn't have a job.
Watch it. You'll learn something.